6 rounds remain before the NRL Telstra Premiership Final Series starts, but the ongoing injury tolls, racist remarks and dangerous conduct overshadowed the on-field action in round 14. Kevin Proctor should have celebrated his 250th NRL match. Instead, he's booked in with the judiciary. But what price will he pay for an alleged bite? The NRL community rallies around Brent Naden after he was subjected to racial abuse. But what punishment should be handed down to the accused? The panel have their say. Plus, Parramatta's Reid Mahoney reassures us the Eels' big dance dream is still alive. And should Sonny Bill Williams make an immediate return to help the ailing Roosters? Thanks for watching Inside the NRL. I'm Katie Brown and I'm back with my main men, Jamie Soward and Sydney Morning Herald's Michael Chammas. Thanks for being back on deck, gents.
Thanks, Katie.
Like
who is the meanest man in the group?
Both of you are equal.
Oh, okay. Is that a word, meanest? We're not going there? Okay.
Mate, I'm not sure. You're very off today. I'll keep leading. Now, all things weren't that rosy from the weekend, but we will start with what you enjoyed most out of the round. Jamie, I'll start with you.
So many close results, but I don't think you can go past the hammer and that try up there in North Queensland. The way he was able to just put himself in the right position and run around the winger there, and get past Latrell Mitchell, I don't think you can see one of the best tries that I've seen from an individual.
We did speak about this.
He just stole my line. He just stole my line. He's trying to throw me off.
Yes, he did, and I'm laughing because that is very true, and I will stick up for you.
Well, I'll tell you what I enjoyed. I enjoyed the Dragons winning and putting in for Paul McGregor one last time. Good to see. Great gestures after the game, which we'll have a look at a bit later, but it was nice to see the Dragons dig in for Mary one last time. Absolutely, and the laughs probably stopped there because there was a lot of controversy over the round of 14, and Kevin Proctor has a big night at the NRL judiciary on Tuesday night after his allegations of allegedly biting Shaun Johnson. Here's how it all played out.
This is a sensation. It's Proctor. They were both reacting in the moment. You know, I don't know. We all saw a bite. He clearly thinks that he didn't bite him on purpose. Shaun Johnson feels something on his arm.
You know, we're both heated in the middle of the game. I was a bit high on him. Whatever happened, and yeah, we're still mates. Just a good game. Congrats on 250. I love you. He loves me. Still good friends. So, look, like I said, man, there's nothing much to say about it. It is what it is. What happens on the field stays on the field, and I've got nothing but respect for Kevy, and I love him as a player and love him as a person. So, no, nothing more to say about it.
I don't know. Well, I just asked questions at the end of the game. There was no on-field complaint by the player.
I'm not going to accuse Kevin for biting. Obviously, Shaun felt something.
You see Kevin Proctor's reaction. He was horrified that he even got accused of it. And you see his reaction there. He's shattered. So I hope for him he doesn't get suspended for it, because I don't think he bit him intentionally. I just don't think he bit him.
Both players know each other really well, and they both exchanged words to each other, and one's apologised, and the other, Kevin wasn't one that apologised, and so I can't get into it.
Yeah, well, our game is never short of some drama, controversy once again, and this is the first time that we have seen a player sent off for biting. Now, the Titans did have to play out the rest of the game with 12 players. The last time we saw an instance that was as bad, or if not worse, was James Graham in the 2012 Grand Final when he bit Billy Slater's ear. He missed 12 matches for that. He did not get sent off. Jamie, you've even been involved in a situation accused of biting.
Yeah, 2009, Matt Ballin. I didn't even know it had happened at the time. I'd actually gone to Fiji for a week. We had the week off, so got the charge come through that I'd allegedly bit Matt Ballin in this situation here. I think it's very similar to Kevin Proctor's one. So I don't think Kevin Proctor bites him. I don't think it's in his game to be able to do that. He's got his arm around the mouth there in that tackle. Very similar to Matt Ballin. You can see him come away there. And we've since buried the hatchet, but I don't think there was any intent or malice from Kevin Proctor.
Did you take a little nibble, Jay? Like when I'm not having a crack at you, but I'm saying when someone's got their hand in their mouth, is it a natural reaction to be like, get out sort of thing? Well,
you put it this way, if I was to put my arm across your mouth and two guys are tackling you and your mouth is open, it's almost impossible not to try and clench down and get out of it. And that's what I thought we saw from Kevin Proctor. You can see there his neck's been twisted away, so his breathing's been cut off. You can see his head being twisted around, and Shaun Johnson's obviously felt something and the mouth is open, but I don't think in any way he should be suspended. Maybe a fine because he's been sent off and it's gone to the judiciary, but I wouldn't be suspending Kevin Proctor.
Well, that's the next question is, if he is found guilty, in your opinion, what is his punishment, Michael?
That's not guilty, though.
Well, I think it's going to be hard to prove that he's actually guilty, to be honest with you. To me, there's enough doubt there to suggest, like, did he do it, did he not do it? I have no doubt there's bike marks on Shaun Johnson, but is that because of the force that he put his arm inside his mouth? I don't know if that's... Did he, was he just trying to get out of the tackle? It's going to be an interesting one to see at the judiciary on Tuesday night.
If you look at that tackle again, and hopefully we get to see it again with Kevin Proctor, it's not like he is open his mouth. He hasn't even got his eyes open there. His mouth's open. Shaun Johnson's forcing his neck back. If anything, Shaun's probably forcing the issue. If your mouth's open, you don't wear a double-sided mouth guard to cover the bottom part of the teeth. I'd be very surprised. And it's not in Kevin. I think he's been suspended once his whole career.
Yeah, he has. Is it difficult to rewatch that slow-mo too? Is it a circumstance where you have to watch it back in real time and take it for what it is?
I'd be interested to see how the judiciary takes Shaun Johnson's comments into it as well, because he walked it back very quickly.
Well, they can't take it into consideration.
I'm just saying,
but he may want... Well, I'm not sure if he is or isn't. There's talk around that he may provide a statement to the Titans to help Kevin Proctor's case, to argue that perhaps he didn't feel as much, or he didn't feel a definite bite down from Kevin Proctor. Who knows if Shaun Johnson wants to do it? My understanding is he wants to just distance himself completely. They're obviously mates. They've played Test football together. So I think Shaun realised once it was all over, he's like, well,
yeah, but you can't
I need to back away from this.
Look, with all due respect to Shaun Johnson, you can't distance yourself after you've claimed someone bit you.
Well, he didn't make an official complaint on the field.
Okay, but then he was sent off for that. So Henry Perinara's got that decision sent off, right? But then after the game, say you don't want to talk about it, you're going to have to talk about it, because that game was in the balance right up until that moment. That was a tough game. Titans were playing great. They lose a player, it goes south for the Titans. That's a huge call.
Yeah, but we've seen it before with Josh Maguire.
We haven't seen it before.
Well, eye gouging.
Hold on.
Remember Josh Maguire?
Listen, that's for eye gouging. We've never seen anyone sent off for biting.
I think eye gouging is on the same level as biting.
We've never seen anyone sent off for biting, including in a grand final. Right, the biggest day of the year.
Very hard to see what was happening in there.
I'm just saying, in the biggest year, I didn't get anything. I didn't even know that had happened when it happened to me in 2009. Billy Slater comes away and says he's been bitten and he got 12 games. If you're not going to see it on the biggest day of the year, why are you seeing it at Cogra in round 14?
I think James Graham denied this as well after it happened, that he'd even done it. So,
but answer me that. We haven't seen this before. Why are we? If we're not going to send someone off in a grand final, why did we get to the point?
That's a long, long time ago. Half the people that were in that game...
A bite's a bite, mate.
No, I'm talking about the officials. We can't talk about consistency for something that happened, what, 6 years ago?
I'm just saying, though, we haven't seen this before. This is a send-off for a bite, the alleged bite. That
I don't know if it was clear-cut either.
No. I don't think you could have...
be able to send someone to the bin.
No, I think they got that send-off wrong.
OK, well, it brings us to, I guess, another scenario. And if the judiciary do decide that he is guilty of biting, depending on what the time frame is that he sits out, he may not play again for the Titans this year. He's off contract. Should the club re-sign him?
Yes. He's been with them through the bad times. I know they've got 2 fantastic back rowers. Well, Fasil Malawi looks like he might be able to play up front. They've got Dave Fafita. Kevin Proctor, you're going to need some experience around those guys. If anything has come out of the Broncos this year is it's fantastic to have all the young talent in the world, but you're going to need some guys that have been in the trenches, that have been successful, played Test footy. He won't get the money that he went up there on, but he may be able to come to a deal with Justin Holbrook and come to a medium in that middle of that price and get that contract done.
Yeah, I don't know if they need to keep Kevin Proctor, to be honest with you. I just think keep themselves the freedom, the money and the cap and the space to be able to get someone that's going to make a real difference. I take your point on leadership. They got Mal Meninga involved with the club. They hopefully have some other guys there, but I just think they can actually use that money probably a bit better elsewhere.
Where?
Well, at hooker, to be honest with you.
And who?
Well, whoever they can get. They need a good hooker.
Yeah.
Well, if Brandon Smith wants to walk out on the Melbourne Storm because Harry Grant goes back to Melbourne, then Brandon Smith at the Gold Coast Titans, if they can afford him, and there may be the difference of not signing Kevin Proctor, they need a hooker more than they need Kevin Proctor because they've got the forwards that they've signed.
Now you're speaking in hypotheticals. If Kevin Proctor comes onto the market, 15 clubs will be making inquiries.
It's not a hypothetical because they're not re-signing Nathan Peets. They've got no hooker next year, so they need a hooker.
They've let go. Peets is gone. They've got. They'll get rid of Ryan James's contract. He goes to Canberra. So there's going to be some money there that they haven't spent to be able to get.
They've spent 1.7 thousand million on David Fafita.
1.7 thousand million. That is a number I have never heard. We'll continue with the Titans another day. But interesting points there, both of you, gents. let's turn our focus to the Penrith and Warriors match. And it was disappointing scenes, actually, to see racial abuse on Panthers winger Brent Naden. Now, our acting chief executive, Andrew Abdo, did weigh in, and here's his response.
Things like this don't happen that often, but they should never happen. And when they do happen, we have to act decisively. We have to act in a unified and strong way, and that's what we intend to do. We will conclude the investigation and we'll take whatever action we deem necessary to make sure that those fans who are proven to have acted in this way know that they are not able to attend our games going forward. I think anyone would be shaken by what occurred. I think he appreciated the support that he's been receiving. I think it's been terrific. He obviously has the support of his team, but more importantly, he has the support of the entire rugby league community. I think he feels that.
And for everybody just tuning in, just to make it clear, there was a group of spectators who were removed from that match for racial abuse on Brent Naden. Now, Nathan Cleary and James Tamau both did speak today, and they said that they are waiting for repercussions to happen. There must be repercussions for their actions, whether or not it is life bans. But Cleary spoke and said banter is okay, but once there's personal attacks on family, race, religion, this should be totally off limits. My question to both of you is, do they deserve a life ban or do they deserve a second chance? Life ban, straight away. We need strong leadership, and Andrew Abdo is showing that. And if proven guilty, they should have a life ban. And people will say, well, everyone deserves a second chance. Rugby league's the game of second chances for players, and everyone makes mistakes. But if you pay your money, if you're old enough to pay your money and go to a game and be fueled by alcohol and go to the low, disgraceful acts of not only being personal but being having racism involved in that, there's no place for you in our game. And the players, I'm glad the players got behind it. Everyone on social media got behind it. Banned for life. Michael, what about for you? I think there needs to be some strong measures taken here. I think they need to face lengthy bans. I just don't know what we're doing, what service we are to the people that are involved, the game, the future players who may be subject to this, and to people in the community. If the game hangs its hat on being the game that gives people second chances, rehabilitating and educating people, why not afford these kids, who are kids, who have absolutely acted like buffoons, but give them the opportunity to actually understand what they've done, rehabilitate them and educate them, get them to speak to Brent Naden, and if none of them want to take that up, then fine, throw the book at them. But there might be one in that group of 8 there who actually say, you know what, I've stuffed up here, I should never have said anything, or who may not have said anything, and goes and acts. If we're going to welcome Matt Lodge back into our game, Russell Packer, which the game has done a tremendously good job at allowing these players back into the game, and they've proved the game right, then I think that we could, as a game, help these kids understand what they did was completely wrong. Because yes, they are kids, and what they did was stupid. But life ban achieves nothing at this point. Kids aren't old enough to drink. You're going to make a decision and be old enough to go. So he didn't do anything. I'm not saying that this is bad, but I think the game can actually get something out of this. I was never disrespectful or racist to go to a sporting event and go and do that. So there's something seriously wrong with the way these kids have been brought up to think that that's acceptable. So why wouldn't the game try and actually help these guys? If there's remorse, did the events that happened afterward and the videos here, social media, did that show remorse? No, there's a few there. They weren't all in those videos. Right. Yeah. So what, we're just going to pick and choose what we stand for as a game? So listen to me. Am I saying that this is acceptable? No, I'm not saying it's acceptable. I'm just saying, as a game, there's an opportunity. In 2020, how could you think that you need to be educated to not be? Come on, Sal. To not yell out racist. Everyone's different. To not yell out racist. But in 2020, with everything that's going on in the world. Look at Russell Packer. You think Russell Packer hasn't got regrets? You're talking about different situations here. They are. You're talking about different situations. They're talking about guys who've learnt from lessons. Russell Packer went to jail. I'm talking about exactly learnt from his lessons. Jail, right? All I'm talking about is people who make mistakes. Not everyone should be just said, okay, throw the book at them, see you later. I'm just saying, they might tell the NRL, piss off, we don't care about your integrity and investigation, we don't care about what's going on. If they do, throw the book at them. But speak to them, find out what's going on, and potentially try and help them to make them realise what they've done was horrible. How could you be so ignorant to racism in 2020, is what I would be saying. You and I understand that. You and I understand that. Everyone should understand. Everyone should understand that. I think we wish everybody does. I think we wish everybody. But it's worldwide at the moment. But the reality is they don't. I think the encouraging thing we can take out of this is that Brent Naden had the confidence to speak about it, and he had the support from the game to get these people removed so he could continue on and play it. And I take my hat off to him for doing so, and it should not happen. We know that, and we do not support that whatsoever. The NRL is still working with the New South Wales Police and the stadium authorities to make sure that they get all the details correct and do fix the matter and come up with a resolution on that. So we'll keep that there. Margie McDonald, our senior reporter, is across that story. So for all the details, go to nrl.com to follow those movements. Before we do move on to my interview with Reid Mahoney, Michael, last week in the Sydney Morning Herald, you were speaking about Moses Mbye potentially going to the Gold Coast Titans. Is there any movement on that?
No movement just yet. Look, with Moses Mbye, it's clear that he's on a big contract with the West Tigers for the next 2 years. He's on $800,000 there. He's the captain of the club. And I think Moses himself would admit that he hasn't performed to what he's expected of himself and what the club expects of him. Now, there's an opportunity there in the off-season. I think you'll find that Moses will look to explore options. The Tigers will look to explore options. I've spoken to people at the club, and they're willing to pay around that $400,000 mark if Moses Mbye decides that he wants to head off. That conversation hasn't happened yet between the Tigers and Moses Mbye, but he's not silly. He understands where the game's at. They've tried to move on Josh Reynolds. They've tried to move on Russell Packer, Chris McQueen. The Tigers players who are on big money are on notice, and Moses Mbye is one of them. So I think you'll find with this one, if he can get a few games under his belt, get a few good games under his belt, there may be some movement as we head towards the end of the year.
Okay, and another man who's been in the spotlight is Josh Adoka. Is he going to stay at the Melbourne Storm in 2021, or will he move elsewhere?
Well, you'll remember, Katie, last year, Josh Adoka was trying to get out of his contract at Melbourne, and they said, you can leave at the end of 2020 as long as we have a replacement. Now, he's been in a management dispute for some time with Chris Orr. That was settled last week. There's a settlement there now. He's free, and he's joined Mario Tartak. He has a different management now. And the Melbourne Storm are thinking to themselves, you know what? In a COVID world, there's every chance next year that they may be in the bubble again. So Josh Adoka's reasons for wanting to leave are based around family. But Melbourne's going to sit down with Josh Adoka and say, listen, mate, at this point, you may not be able to see your family next year in Sydney anyway because we may be in a bubble. Do you want to see out your contract? So those conversations will be had with Adoka. At the moment, he will be free to talk to other people, but he may stay.
He's come out and said that he wants to play fullback. Has there been much interest in around that from what you're hearing from clubs?
Well, I don't know. To be honest, I don't know if Josh Adoka has what it takes to be a fullback. I think there may be an appetite for fullback money. Whether he can play fullback and has the ball skills to do it. No doubt he's got the speed and the ability to finish a try. Sal, you'd know more in terms of his fullback ability, but perhaps a club that's desperate for a fullback like a Brisbane Broncos or a West Tigers or a Canterbury Bulldogs, they may fork out money and bring him as the fullback, but I don't know if that's his position long term. Do you see him making that transition?
Well, I mean, he got all the attributes. Yeah, we've seen guys. I think about Darren Martinez-Lesniak. Yeah, he wanted to be a fullback. It's not an easy transition, but if he could get those ball skills right, he could definitely make the switch. I have no doubt about that. He seems like one of those kids that, he puts his mind to it and he's able to do it. So those clubs that you mentioned, you could see Trent Barrett working with him skills-based wise and being out the back of that back line. It could be potentially a great move.
Gosh, I'd love to watch him at number one. Wouldn't that be nice?
It'd be exciting. It's the ball skills. That'll be the one that determines whether he can make the transition.
Okay, and finally, just the last one was Tavita Pangai Jr. Last week, we did report that the NRL has stood him down indefinitely, and the Brisbane Broncos were not sure if he will play another game this season in terms of an NRL contract. What's the situation there?
Well, at this stage, it's very unlikely he'll play again this year. I know the New Zealand Warriors were circling and they were trying to suss out whether Tavita would be willing to head to the Warriors on a loan deal for the rest of the year. That's probably unlikely to happen now because the NRL is going to come over the top and say, you're out for the rest of the year. Now, he's obviously got a Zoom call with the Broncos board that he needs to do. He's got legal advice and he'll sort out his future, but it doesn't look like Tavita Pangai Jr. will be playing football in 2020.
Wow, that's a huge loss for the Brisbane Broncos as well, and I guess the game. But thank you so much for that news update, Michael Chammas. It is now time to go to the interview with Reid Mahoney. I caught up with the hooker a little earlier. Well, Reid, thanks for coming on Inside the NRL. A bit of a disappointing missed opportunity against the Dragons. Your coach, Brad Arthur, said that you didn't deserve to win. Where did it all go wrong?
We didn't start well. We, credit to them, they held on in the first half, and we missed some opportunities attacking wise, and we just didn't take opportunities, and they got on top and they took their opportunities, which was the difference in the end.
Brad also mentioned concentration errors. So have you sort of gone back over some video and looked at those concentration errors in that game?
Yeah, we have. It's something we need to get better at. It's not an effort thing. It's not a willingness to win thing. It's just a simple concentration, staying in the moment, sort of errors. So we need to be really much better there. I was guilty for one and dropping the ball, which is not good enough, and Dill had a couple there too, which is just a catch and pass. So as a team, we've got to be better.
And what about for you? Do you feel like you got a little unlucky with that disallowed try?
I guess you could say unlucky. I thought I was close enough, but I don't know. I didn't really see. He gave it a try, so I was sure that there was no evidence that there wasn't a try. But yeah, that sort of didn't really say how bad we played on the weekend. So if I get that, we probably just win. But yeah, it didn't go our way. Some nights you do get those, and some you don't. So we just got to worry about next week, and we got to be better. Going on to Melbourne next week.
Yeah, you talk about Melbourne, and you still are sitting inside that top 4. How do you bounce back?
It's just about getting the little things right again, starting well, the first half and the second half, and taking opportunities. Obviously, up against Melbourne this week, opportunities are going to be very limited. So, everyone we got to take them and ice them.
And what about, I know they've got Cameron Munster out this week. Cameron Smith is expected to be out, but are you expecting him to play? Do you think he will play?
Oh, yeah, he probably will play. But then, I guess, no one knows. So we just got to go with the team that they sort of had last week and have a look at that and see what we can do to, be at our best. So, but I think we're not too worried about them. We're sort of worried about ourselves and getting our game right before we start worrying about the other team. But
what about, I understand you would be more, you'd be concentrating more on your own side, but if Cameron Smith does play, surely that changes your game plan going in?
I probably won't change a whole lot. Probably just more of a, he's obviously, the best player to ever play the game, so a bit of a target on him to, limit his opportunities and what he does with the ball. So, but then yet again, they have, it's not just him. They have such a great team from 1 to 17. So, if he plays, he plays. If he doesn't, not too worried. We just got to worry about ourselves.
And worrying about yourselves, I guess an attack is a big issue at the moment. Have you sort of addressed that? And has it changed since Mitch has come back, or?
Oh, no, it hasn't changed at all. I think we're just, we're probably just waiting for the next play rather than playing that play. And, everyone's guilty for it this year, so the last few weeks. So I think one game we'll get it right and we'll be okay. So, we're working really hard at training and stuff like that to get it right. But we know we can score points, and we know we have the depth and everything around the park to be able to score us points. So we're not too worried. It's just more of an opportunity thing and getting it right.
And for you this week, it's a pretty big milestone, 50 NRL games. Congratulations. Did you ever think a boy from Nambour would reach this dream?
Yeah, thanks. No, you wouldn't think of playing one first grade game rather than 50. So it's probably come pretty quick to me, rather than a few years. So been pretty lucky and being able to play every game. So I'm doing everything right. To stay in the team. So hopefully hopefully it's just another game and we get the win.
Hopefully you get the win, and make sure you give yourself a pat on the back, and there's plenty more milestones we can celebrate with you. Good luck with the boys on Thursday night, and thanks for your time, Reid.
Thanks, Katie. Thank you.
Yeah, don't forget you can catch that match live on our broadcast partners, Channel 9, Fox Sports, KO, and of course the Telstra Live Pass. Jamie, it's time for your sweet or soured. What way are you tipping? I'm nervous.
Soured this week. I'm fired up. I'm telling you, on the weekend, Newcastle and Manly, it was an absolute cracker game, really close result. But this play right here, in 2020, we can't rule on forward passes ever. This back comes back in, possibly goes forward. Now, Tuala scores. This is a crucial point in the game. Chemis, they send it upstairs. Ashcline sends it up to check on whether the back went forward or not. If we're going to be able to rule back on that, surely we can rule on forward passes.
Well, it confused your missus, didn't it?
Yeah, Matty asked me, I didn't think they could rule on forward passes. Now we can rule on bat-ons and backbacks.
I don't know. I don't know what the rule is there and the way the NRL head going forward. There's a few confusing things at the moment. A couple of weeks ago, we had the Captain's Challenge where you blew up about how they could actually go back and check something that the captains didn't ask to check for, and Parramatta lost the Captain's Challenge over it. So maybe a few grey areas. Howie's fired up, Katie.
I am fired up.
He's been too generous.
I feel like he's still smiling though.
Yeah, because I'm fired up because that's gonna, if the camera angle is gonna eliminate forward passes, right? I always relate it back to a grand final. If that's the last play in the grand final and we're checking on whether it goes forward or not because a referee's not sure, we need to have a system in place. We need to be able to rule on those plays. You can't tell me that that camera angle is able to rule on that, whether that ball went forward or backwards, better than the Tom Trbojevic pass earlier in the year at Bankwest.
Fair enough. It's not a bad point you make. I am going to try and add a sweet off the back of your sound. I know you two are going to head over to the touchscreen, but we did see some emotional scenes post-match after the Dragons got the win over the Eels between outgoing coach Paul McGregor and his team.
When I was at South, I was, I remember reading an article saying that something along the lines of Cameron Kings doesn't have it, and later that week, Mary actually called me, which I think was tampering at the time, but she called me and he had faith in me and go up to the club and always believed in me and gave me everything. So, coach, you gave me my first jersey at the club, and I just want you to have one.
Present I've got, I'm glad I made that phone call.
Yeah, lovely gesture there from the Dragons to Paul McGregor in his final game. Jamie, let's get to the touchscreen. Joey Manu, voted as the best centre in the game by the players earlier in the year, but defensively, he's been highlighted a few times this year. A couple of struggling moments. Michael Jennings earlier in the year, Justin Olam on the weekend.
Yeah, I think Trent Robinson will be looking for more out of Joey Manu, especially he's such a threat with the ball attacking-wise, but defensively, with no Cole Flanagan and that edge being so, I guess, hurt by their injuries, he needs to stand up and be able to lead from the front. And on the weekend, we didn't see that. You can see here, he's highlighted over in that centre position there. Now, him being the senior player over there, he needs to be able to make decisions on when to come in and when to stay out. And you just watch his indecision here, just to go back on his heels, and then all of a sudden goes forward. It leaves Matt Ikuvalu out on an edge. Now, fantastic play by Josh Adoka and Ryan Pappenhausen, but it's that indecision on an edge from Joey Manu that's creating, I guess, uncertainty on an edge for Matt Ikuvalu, but also the halve this week. They'll go back to Cole Flanagan, you would think. I just think that he could be better than that, and it's the second time it's happened this year.
So one of my favourite players, Matt Cooper, known as one of the best defensive centres of the modern era, your former teammate. What can Joseph Manu learn from what you've found during your time with Matt Cooper? Well,
I think Coop's learnt to trust, the players in and around him as well, and this second clip's going to highlight that. You have a look, a little late offload here from the Melbourne Storm, but just watch where Joey Manu's eyes are. He comes into screen there, and all his focus is in here, and he realises that he's lost those players to the outside and where they need to be. Now, it's a one-on-one miss, and Olam's just too good, but Trent Robinson's standards, for the back-to-back champions to at least have any chance of being a three-peat, they need to be better from Joey Mahoney, and he'd be expecting more.
Well, there you have it, Katie. A few chinks in the armour of the best centre in the game.
Yeah, thanks, gents. Always great insight. Time now for this week's Casualty Ward, brought to you by Go Healthy Vitamins. Well, more injury woes for the Sea Eagles. Brendan Elliott out for the rest of the season after he suffered an ACL tear. And a graphic warning for this one. Back rower Joel Thompson needed stitches to his tongue after copping this nasty split. Now, depending on the swelling, Thompson could miss a week. He did say he lost a stitch from talking. The club doctor says mouth injuries heal quick, so Manly could have him back in time for Saturday's clash with South. Brisbane have lost yet another Bronco. Jake Turpin will sit out for up to 6 weeks with a hand fracture. The club yet to determine whether he'll need surgery. The Melbourne Storm have been rocked by the news Dal Finucane is set to miss up to 6 weeks with a torn calf suffered in training. This comes on the back of a fractured jaw to Suliasi Vunivalu, who also could be out for up to 6 weeks. The Roosters troops have taken another hit. Luke Keary thankfully cleared of any internal organ injuries, but will be sidelined with a broken rib. The club confirmed Lachlan Lamb requires surgery on a syndesmosis injury, while Mitch Orbison sustained a significant ligament tear in his wrist, with no timeline on a return for the Tricolours veteran. There's a number of other injuries out of round 14. Jerome Hughes, a 50-50 chance to play Parramatta, managing a groin injury. A double blow for the Titans with Dale Copley's season over, and an AC shoulder joint for Jai Arrow. A shining light for the Cowboys, Valentine Holmes is back training with the main group, although it isn't likely that he will play this week. Now, it's another week of a lot of injuries for different clubs. We did hear Craig Bellamy and Trent Robinson front media this week, and they had their say.
We decided we want some fatigue in the game, but I'm not quite sure whether there's too much fatigue at the moment with the amount of teams that have got a lot of injuries. A lot of injuries. And it's not just about fatigue and soft tissue injuries. It's about when people get fatigued, they start putting their bodies in the wrong places to make contacts or to make tackles or, absorb the contact, and then that's where you get injured from there. So I think it's something we probably need to have a little look at, because as I said, it was like a mass unit out there tonight.
We knew the risk of it all, and we assumed the risk because that's what we're here to do. But I was a part of it, so not having buys, and obviously the rule changes have increased the intensity sort of by about 10 or 15% in the game, and that's there are consequences for that. A better game and more injuries at the moment.
So two of the most decorated coaches in the game, Craig Bellamy calling it a mash unit, Trent Robinson admitting he was part of voting towards those changes in the game. So since COVID-19 and that break, we've seen a lot of injuries. Gents, how do we ensure, if these rules stay in place, that we can help these players feel safer come 2021?
Well, I think they're probably both looking at the 6 again rule and how it's used and stuff like that, because you want to try and get a bit more fatigue into the game to bring the littler fellas back in. But what we're seeing this year is, teams are having to make 15, 16, 17 tackles without a break. And there's longer cycles this year. I think the way the game's changed is, kicking it, you don't kick into touch anymore. You kick to just hand over possession. And we're seeing longer cycles, so that's building fatigue as well. But I don't think you can go too far the other way either. I actually like the game at the moment. I think that we'll be better adjusted for it next year. It's just one of those years that usually you have a bye or 2 byes and an origin period as well, where you can sort of manage those guys in and get them some rest. But it's just a weird year at the moment. I think both those guys in the back of their mind understand that.
But I think, the other thing is we've got to remember everyone came back into this competition after the COVID break on the back of 2 or 3 weeks of training. There wasn't a proper pre-season. I know the pre-season is too long, but 2 weeks is not the proper pre-season you need to get yourself right, especially with the rule changes and the increased workload. So I think next year, I think the game has uncovered something pretty good with the rule changes. Just need to tinker around the pre-season and the workloads a little bit, and it may have the desired effect.
Yeah, fingers crossed, because we are seeing a lot of injuries. That's this week's Casualty Ward, brought to you by Go Healthy Vitamins. It's now time for Hit or Miss. Okay, Dean Young will be the new head coach for the Dragons. Hit or miss?
You go first.
You're the legend of the Dragons.
It'll be interesting to see what happens for the next couple of weeks and whether they can get the job done. They've got 3 winnable games. Can they make the 8? I think if they make the 8, it puts him in the box seat. But there's a lot of work that goes in from being an assistant coach to being a head coach and then taking care of a roster and a pre-season. So I think the Dragons will do their due diligence and make sure that they go through this process to find the right person. So I'm going to take a leaf out of old mate's book here and sit on the fence. But I just want to see what he has to offer. I want to see whether the team responds, because if they play like they did on the weekend, that's the most concerning thing for me on the weekend. They played like that. If they come out of COVID with that urgency and energy in the games that they've had since, they're not only in the top 8, they're probably in the top 6. And they're worrying teams because they've shown that they've got the attack and the ability, but they haven't shown that urgency, so they haven't been rewarded for that. So that's a frustrating thing.
Make the 8? You still think they can make the 8? They're 6 points outside the 8 with, 6 rounds remaining. Season's over. I think it's a miss for me. He won't be the coach, but I'll tell you what, he's got the opportunity to put his name up in lights in the next 6 weeks. They're not going to make the 8. I think even if they win every game, they may struggle to make the 8. But his opportunity right now, because the Dragons don't know which way they're going to go. They genuinely don't know who's going to be the coach, what sort of coach they want next year. So if Dean Young comes in over the next 6 weeks and does a good job, he might say, hey, I'm the guy you need. So I don't think he will be, but the chance is there for him to make it his own.
If both of you had to pick, who would you pick to take over the job today, if they were giving it to someone today?
Oh, Craig Fitzgibbon is if he wants it, he's obviously pledged his loyalty to the Roosters. But if he says, I want the job, then Craig Fitzgibbon for mine is the one that they should give it to.
Jamie? What, you put your own hand up?
Yes.
Please make sure we are recording this. I want to bring this up next season.
I'm not sure.
Sorry, am I talking to Jamie or Michael?
I'm not sure, I said. I don't know. I mean, yeah, do you get Wayne back? I think that I've said for a long time that they need to get this process, the whole club process, right. It can't be just one area. You can't just change the coach and think that things are going to change for the Dragons. This needs to be a whole club process. So
it's the first time I've ever seen you short for words.
I don't know if Wayne Bennett's the answer. I know we love Uncle Wayne on this show, but
I didn't say that. I said
I know you didn't say that. I just don't know if Wayne is where he was. This team is not as good as a team as the Dragons he inherited in 2010, and I don't think Wayne Bennett has got that left in him anymore to take a team that's low to mid-range back up there. I don't think it solves the Dragons' problem.
You hear a lot. Anthony Griffin, where is he amongst coaches when jobs come up? Where is he ranked in that conversation? Because he's winning
perception.
Do they want Shane Flanagan? Like, what are you hearing? If it was out of those two, who would they want?
Oh, well, I think if Shane Flanagan was free to coach next year, he'd be coaching, right? But the Dragons aren't going to entertain that because the NRL have made it clear he won't be getting a reduced ban. But I think perception is everything with Anthony Griffin, and the way things ended at his time with Penrith and the way things unfolded with Gus, I don't think people believe Anthony Griffin is going to be a good coach going forward because of the way the perception that he fell out with the players. Now, only the players can answer that question whether they liked him or not. The talk was they didn't, but you can't get away from perception.
Name a team that wasn't winning that didn't fall out with a coach.
Okay, well, I definitely got you both sidetracked. We will move on to question 2. We will not see another biosecurity breach this season. Michael?
This season?
This season.
Miss. We'll be lucky to get through the week without a biosecurity breach, unfortunately. Such is the nature at the moment. And
you know something we don't know?
No, I don't know. Well, not yet. You'd read about it at the Sydney Morning Herald if I did. But I just don't think that with teams falling out of 8 contention and they've gone through such a tough year, they're going to be breaches. They're going to be breaches.
Jamie?
Hit. I don't think we will. I think that the Tavita Pangai Jr. situation and how that unfolded and the $30,000 fine that's been placed on him, I think that's going to, just remind players how much that everyone has worked to get the game on the field, and what the players need to remember is, yes, you guys are the product, and we love watching you and covering you, and you are our idols, but there's so many people that rely on this game to finish this year in what's been a tough year for everyone, and there's a lot more people that are worse off. So I'm expecting the players to get the job done.
It's not just players, Sally.
Well, coaches.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like Brett Finch on the weekend, you know what I mean? Like there are so many people in the bubble who can breach it, who have the ramifications going forward could be quite significant. So
and we saw that last week. Not everyone can afford those fines. I'm going to go on the side of the players and the coaches here. I think they get the job done for the rest of the year.
Okay, fingers crossed for, I guess, the game's sake and everybody's sake. Adam Reynolds is the player you'd want kicking to save your life. Hit or miss?
Hit.
Pretty impressive.
He's the best at the NRL in the moment. I'd probably trust myself if I was kicking for my own life. I'd rather. But yeah, he's clutch. He came up with some big plays. I think that's his 22nd field goal that he's kicked in the NRL, which is a pretty big number by today's standards. And yeah, to come up and continue to deliver. So this is after he missed a kick to tie the game. He nailed a penalty conversion and then made that drop kick there. Now, technique-wise, wasn't perfect. He had pressure on him as well, but that clutch gene just struck him.
Michael?
Can I get close to you? And Sowie, back in the day, well, to be honest with you, back in the day, if it was a former player, obviously Sowie showed that he could do it. Sorry, I know, you don't want to embarrass
What about Thurston?
Yeah,
well, is
this just now? Is it current or?
Thurston's not sitting next to me, so current players. Honestly, I'd say Nathan Cleary. I think Nathan Cleary is Adam Reynolds. Look, he's done it over a long period of time, but right now, I think Nathan Cleary is the clutch player of the NRL.
When you say kicking, Katie, I know we're hijacking this whole segment, but are you meaning drop goal?
I'm meaning...
Or goal kick?
Field goal.
Or general play?
Oh.
Field goals.
Field goal? I would take Reynolds.
Last minute of the grand
I'm going
final.
Nathan.
Reynolds. Over Thurston.
All right.
I think Reynolds will get the job done.
Great. Let's move on. The Roosters have to get Sonny Bill Williams back before round 17.
Miss.
Okay.
Yeah, you need to make sure. Sonny's come in for a hit-and-run mission at a three-peat. They don't need to rush him back. It'll give a chance for Trent Robertson to get some more guys back, but there's no point putting him out there underdone and expecting Sonny to be the Sonny of 2013. They'll need to work him into the systems and make sure he's ready to go.
Yeah, miss for me as well. He hasn't played in, 5 months? He hasn't run in 5 months. He coming off a knee injury as well, and we saw in Toronto, he wasn't ready for that start in Toronto either. So you do no one any favours by throwing Sonny Bill in. I know they've got injuries at the moment, but the Roosters are the team that if they get in the finals, regardless of where they finish 6th, 7th, 8th, it does not matter because all those players would have had those weeks off. They'll come back and they can just win every game and win a comp. So it doesn't matter. They just need Sonny Bill right when they need him, and that's the last few weeks of the comp.
You ask whether or not he can still run, and he hasn't run in 5 months. We've got him starring in Champ or Chump for another reason later on, so make sure you stay tuned. But lastly, the Broncos will not win another game this season.
Miss. I think they will. They showed enough on the weekend in that first half. I mean, it was diabolical the second half, but yeah, they're very close to rock bottom. I think that they will go worse than what was on the weekend, but I can see a team maybe resting some stars and they get a game up at home, potentially this weekend against the Dragons. That's always a good clash up there. Dragons v the Broncos. They could effectively end the Dragons season this year.
They're out with Payne Haas for a couple of weeks, so...
Oh, it won't be this week then.
I'll pull out my trusty NRL app, and I don't know where they're going to win a game of football, Sowie. Seriously.
Who have they got?
I don't know. They've got this
18.
weekend. They got the Dragons, then they got the Roosters, then they got Penrith.
Yeah, it's right here.
It's right there.
Oh,
It's
sorry.
right on
I'm just trying to plug the NRL app. They don't win. They don't win a game. You could name any team. They don't win. They don't beat anybody in the competition. Sorry. Season's going to finish the way it is now.
Okay. Time now for your power rankings, please, Jamie.
Oh, it's delightful! It's delirious! It gets no better than that!
This week's power rankings see the back-to-back champions, the Sydney Roosters, go from 3 down to 6. It's the lowest I've had them in the couple of years I've been doing this, but I just can't take into account anymore that they're running out of petrol and they're running out of troops.
Geez, you're harsh, Sowie. The reigning champs, they lose to a very good Melbourne Storm team. They drop 3 spots, but they are your power rankings, so if you feel they deserve to drop that far, then so be it.
I just had a look at Luke Keary. That injury to me is a huge one because they have to change the halves now. Hutchison and Flanagan will take control, but I just think they're waiting for those troops to come back. If they can get them all back in at once, it's going to help, but the next couple of weeks are soon going to tell how good they are. The Penrith Panthers continue to dominate the power rankings. This is a team that hasn't got any worries in the world. They went up the Central Coast and got the job done against a very good Warriors side. They could have gone on with the job, though, and even iced the game at the end. That was my only concern.
Yeah, I think we've probably been a little bit unfair on the Warriors. They were very good and back-to-back wins coming into that game, and I think they're starting to show some real signs of promise there, the Warriors, and Penrith had to do the hard yards to get the win. So I don't think Penrith were bad by all means. I think the Warriors lifted.
I think the Penrith Panthers are on the start of a dynasty, Melbourne and Roosters like. If they can still keep this trajectory upwards. The Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs, about 5 weeks ago, I ranked the bottom 5 teams. They were so far off the pace, just off effort. And this was a team that certainly wasn't the worst in the competition. Since then, they've had a win, they've had a couple of good performances, but I watched that yesterday. That's the difference from starting to be a good team to where you are right now. They should have won that game.
They should have, and I'll tell you what, this period is crucial, not for anything to do with this year or for Trent Barrett. It's in regards to recruitment. Because if you're a player off contract who wants to look to go to the Bulldogs next year, you want to see something this next 5 weeks. You don't want to see them losing games like they did yesterday.
Make sure you keep an eye out every Monday on NRL.com for the power rankings.
Thank you, Jamie. As always, all right, it's time for Champ or Chump, and our colleague, Zach Bailey, has taken a real obsession to this segment. He just loads us up with about 4 or 5 now. So, we're first up, Jordan Rapana and his dance moves after their win were very questionable, gents.
Yeah, I think it was his birthday. Look at those.
Look at those what?
Hip thrusts. He grabbed the towel the second time around. He's very lucky not to champ. You win. I'll tell you what, he's been a valuable pickup for the Canberra Raiders this year.
Well, it's been a nice one for him to return.
Given that I showed you a video of my involvement in dance moves over the weekend, I'm not going to chump this bloke, so I'm going to champ him. It's pretty, yeah, I like a bit of character in our players. It's good to see.
Yeah, it is good to see. Staying with the Raiders, and this is the perfect example of taking your opportunity when it is presented to you. The ball boy, Ada Mariota, talk about an 18th man in on try celebrations.
That was, I'll tell you what, having been a ball boy growing up, that's the stuff that you dream of. Like, you know, when I used to do it for Dad, I used to get a clip over the ear because I wasn't watching. But yeah, now I think it's fantastic. I know it's great being a ball boy and we have kids do it, but it's been pretty cool seeing the players do it. Jaden Sullivan's done it a couple of times for the Dragons.
Awesome.
I think it's cool.
Yeah, and he's only 18 and he hasn't done anything wrong. He is in the Canberra Raiders bubble, but I mean, he is like an 18th man out there. He was so stoked for them.
It's like the NBA. Look at Paddy Mills with the towel going nuts. You love to see the players on the bench going crazy. So,
the champ.
All right, next one is, of course, Wayne Bennett. He's in the COVID hold for 2 weeks. And he is making the most of his sponsors with Menu Log. How do you like that?
Honestly, Wayne would have had no idea how to order that menu log. Someone from South Sydney would have ordered it for him and then rang Wayne and said, go to your door, there's food there now, and he would have said, OK.
OK, fine.
And then said, what's menu log?
I'm very impressed by the photo, though. That's the new profile pic, if you ask me.
Yeah, what a coincidence that he's dressed in full bunnies gear.
He wears it every day, uniform.
Champ for me. He'll never be a chump.
Yeah, you cannot chump. Uncle Wayne, staying with the South Sydney Rabbitohs and Cody Walker and Nellie Bell's son, Cade. Now, he's been working on his try celebrations. If there's any NRL players who are looking for some try inspo, call up Cade. I'm pretty sure he could lend you a move or two. What do you reckon?
He looks like Cade, doesn't he?
Yeah, what a fantastic video. I love kid videos. Yeah, being a dad now and Cody Walker. A bit of pressure, I mean, sidetrack, but, you know, if they can deliver that spine and get it right, they're going to be one of the hottest spines in the comp. Yeah,
maybe Kay's going to teach Cody how to do a few of those try celebrations. Have you been teaching Indiana? Come on.
She loves footy. She puts on the headgear. I don't know if she thinks it's a hat.
I heard the toilet training's going well, mate.
Yeah, no, it's going great.
That is concerning. It is a family-friendly show, as we've been reminded. We will not be bringing that up. Okay. And finally, Christian Nicolosi, your actual colleague from the Sydney Morning Herald, got a major sledge from Sonny Bill Williams. Take a listen.
Can you still put a shot on?
Oh, you want to run at me, Cass?
Thank you.
Would you?
Nico would back himself too, actually. He'd back himself to run over Sonny Bill. But you know what? With that gut, he might be able to do it.
Oh!
Love you, Nico.
Are you champing or jumping?
I am so excited to see Sonny Bill's return.
Yeah.
It's going to be a massive boost for the NRL. Sonny Bill's a champ. Seriously.
Just quickly, Sonny Bill, I just need to say, like the first time he came into the game, he was sort of a man on a mission. He didn't do a lot of publicity. He just sort of stuck to himself. But this time around, he's come back and he's done every media request that's been asked of him. He's rocked up day one. He's done media already. Good, well done to Sonny Bill Williams and the Roosters for doing what they've done.
Rocked up in style too. Was it?
Oh, didn't he? Didn't he? Uncle Nick.
That would be nice. All right, a reminder, NRL Teams is back tomorrow at 3:55. Zach Bailey will have all the team news with Brett Kamali and Robbie Farah. Plenty of exchanges and changes expected to be made with the injury toll that continues to rise. Also, before we go, NRL Shop is taking part in the online Click Frenzy Sports shopping event. So for all the NRL fans, Thursday night, 7 p.m, you are going to be available to catch the merchandise with some huge bargains and huge discounts until Sunday at midnight. All right, so until next Monday, have a good one.
Vojevic playing. Back to Cherry Evans. It puts it up. It's a floating kick, an awful one to try and catch, and Hymel Hunt wants nothing to do with that. Brad Parker keeps it in field. Play on for Cust, who kicks it towards the in-goal area and wins a race. Kate Cust, a touch of brilliance to get to the ball put it on the toe, and then win the race to plant it down.
Hunt fires one off. It's gone to McInnes. It's gone away to Norman. A long ball for Ravalawa, charging and getting it there. Ravalawa has scored, in my belief, his second try.
Here is Drinkwater putting it across, kick with a hammer up against Paulo, turns him inside out, puts the foot down. It is hammer time. What a kick by Scott Drinkwater for Hamaso Tabuai Fido. Dearden. Long for Fita, good ball. Stags away, look at Stags run. Brilliant kick. Dearden, Arthur's great Brisbane try. For Fita offload. Katoni Stags run and kick. And the chase through from Jesse Arthurs. That is a 10 out of 10 play.
He hits it, he's got it!